With Hytale releasing, the thing I was most excited about was the PvP. I have already put about 15 hours into learning PvP, and I have gone out of my way to learn as much as I can. And today, I'm going to be telling you some of the things I've learned that can really help you improve on your fights. During these hours, I have played everything. I have played with Crude weapons, iron weapons, best weapons in the game, and we're going to talk about what's best in each of them. The first thing I want to talk about is understanding what weapon you're using. Or even better, understand what weapon you should be using. I've already seen a video talking about the different weapons, and they ranked Battle Axe at the very bottom, worst weapon in the game right now. And yet, I'm a Battle Axe main. I feel like I'm going to enjoy Battle Axe the most, and it's going to be best for me in most fights, but that's my first impressions of it. But daggers are great for mobility, great for poking and running and all that, but understanding what the role is of your weapon is a very important part. Battle Axe is really good for spacing. Mace is really good for damage, but you have to understand when to use these type of weapons. For example, my friend Matt is a daggers main, and I have to take that into account whenever fighting him. You have to take into account what the other person is using, because with daggers, you have to worry about spacing, so I feel Battle Axe is pretty good for that in general. Now, if he's jumping towards me, I could be using a mace. But his mobility is obviously way better than mine with these basic weapons. So it's completely different on what I should play, because a dagger v dagger is just poking a bunch, but whenever you switch to something else, you can do more damage per hit and you can space a bit. Now, my playstyle really involves a lot of mobility, understanding the mobility, things like a Battle Axe where it's hitting decently hard, but I still have the flexibility more than a mace a bit. That's why I'll be using a Battle Axe, but I'll be having daggers ready just to have as a mobility, because daggers are such good mobility, but for damage, I prefer Battle Axe. And that leads me to switching weapons is a thing that this game is embracing. And as soon as I saw it in the gameplay, I was so excited, because I was so curious if this game had smooth transitions to weapons, because using the jump of the dagger and as you're in the air switching to a Battle Axe, people can't react to that quick. Or switching to a mace for a heavier hit if they're right next to you. They can't get away in time, you hit them. That kind of stuff is what makes combat the best in these type of games. And the fact that it embraces that is an amazing feeling. So I'll jump towards them with the dagger and I will hit them with the Battle Axe, and then I hit him for more damage, and then if he starts trying to attack with the daggers, I can then block. Now, understanding the abilities of your weapons is also very important. So for the dagger, obviously, the jump is amazing. I use that as my main mobility because it's just so good. But the damage is lackluster, so I switched to Battle Axe. Now, the Battle Axe jump is good. The main thing about the Battle Axe jump is that as you jump towards them, if you're close enough to hit them, you then can press the hit button again, and it will swing just a bit faster than how it feels when you just swing regularly. So that second swing is just a bit faster and can catch people off guard, and that's how you maximize your damage with that, and that's the reason why it's most of the time actually worth doing. The dagger jump towards a person is amazing. It's great for poking. That's the main reason that people are saying daggers are basically the meta right now, is because you can jump towards them, poke them, and jump back, and it actually does quite a bit of damage. So understanding when to block that is very important for people like me with axes. Now, I can use a dagger and jump, switch to a mace, or I can just use the mace in general. Now, people know to space from it, so if you're using the mace, for example, and swinging it around, you can then swap to the daggers and jump towards them, and then they won't be expecting that nearly as much, or especially whenever you're jumping with daggers and then you just switch to a mace. That really catches people off guard. Some unimplemented weapons that you might still see are things like longsword, which doesn't have a block. Things like the club, which is way too much damage but doesn't really block very well. Things like the regular axe. I try to learn every weapon I can, but some of them are just better than the others, especially the ones with mobility that add to it. Now, abilities is the main thing. The specialist ability, or whatever it's called. With swapping from daggers to axe, or whatever you're swapping to, that does take away the ability. A lot of times, I'm not getting my ability because of my playstyle, and I'm fine with that. That's the trade-off I make, basically. So if you want to just use, let's say, the battle axe to try and get your ability because that does a decent amount of damage, even though it's easily blocked, but that's a whole different topic. Or the daggers, for example. You can keep the daggers in your hand and keep, doing damage with it and build up that ability. But if you switch from that weapon, the ability drains. So it's a give and take on if you want to get the ability or you want to be able to get up to a person and hit them. The ability isn't always worth it. So it's very much understanding when to use that. I would much rather take control of the situation and get close to the enemy and hit them with the jump with the battle axe or something than use my ability and sparingly let them know that I'm only going for that one weapon because I'm going for my ability. Now, the reason I was testing out so many different ways of fighting is that I want to be able to win in a vast variety of ways. Even just with a crude sword versus crude weapons or whatever, I want to be able to know how to win if it comes down to it. For crude weapons, especially with, let's just say, if you only have the ability to craft a basic crude sword, the ability of the sword is very important because the jab forward does quite a bit of damage, but I believe that the animation is a 4-swing animation with the sword. The first two don't do that much damage, but the second two do a bit more. So what you want to do is that if you're going to hit those two, you want to hit the latter two. So if you happen to swing and you miss, just try and hit the last two and you're basically good. The jab forward is very important to hit because, number one, it controls your mobility and making sure that the enemy doesn't get too much space on you, but as well as that, it does a decent amount more damage than the first two swings. The ability of the sword is not very good at all. It's okay, but it's definitely not worth using ability. I'd much rather use the mace or the daggers or the battle axe. It's definitely not the best, but the jab forward is what matters. With these early game fights, you don't have any armor, so in general, it's a lot more bare bones. So you basically just want to make sure you actually hit the jab forward more than the enemy, basically, and then that will definitely help you with crude weapons. I've kind of already shown a lot of copper armor with the basic armor, which is a lot of fun because it shows the baseline between bare bones and high armor. It's the middle ground. But with iron armor, it's kind of more making sure you have the weapons, really, because I believe that weapons are just better than armor, but having both is a very good thing. Iron fights are a lot of just making sure that you're actually hitting your weapons, but I don't recommend a sword if you're doing that, so in general, you want to have the other weapons if you can. Mithril fights are just everywhere. High armor fights are kind of everywhere because you do so much damage, but you also take so little at the same time. Mithril weapons are very insane if you fight someone with lower armor. I feel like a gear gap will definitely happen in some fights, but spacing is even more important the higher up you go. Now, there was a glitch abusing this, but the function is still in the game, and I think it's a very intended thing. The thing is, with the things like long swords where it doesn't have an ability implemented is one thing, but the important part is understanding which ones is good to kind of animation cancel is very interesting. I learned a lot from this with the whole dagger glitch where you could, get no stamina taken away, but still, without it, it's still very good. So, for example, the battle axe does the swing, right? But if you cancel it, it doesn't really send you that far. It's okay, but not great. The sword really is kind of needed to not cancel because it doesn't really send you far either way, so you might as well not. It really depends if you're in a very tight situation. But the main thing is the daggers. The daggers have this jump, but then they have this slash at the end, which just slows you down. Unless you're specifically at the area where you want to attack someone. But if you're just trying to get further in front of you, the dagger jump just slows you down with the second half of the animation. So instead, whenever you first jump, you can swap once it actually jumps, because the animation is kind of weird with the new stamina changes. But the main thing is whenever you jump, you can swap, go into the second one. It still very much helps with propelling you forward. And let's say you want to attack someone first, you do 2 jumps, and then you do the slash. Because it just helps so much get further, close that gap to the enemy, and make sure you are good to go. Now, I want to stress in this next part how important food is. I specifically wanted to keep this as its own section because food is so important in this game with PvP. It is so much more in depth than Minecraft, and I cannot stress that enough. even with a basic food like berries or fish or wild beasts cooked, it gives this basic level 1 regen. And it might not seem intense. You know, you can eat, get a little bit of health and all that, but specifically the health regen, over time that is healing you, which is super critical. For example, with this berry or these random like level 1 items, very easy to get, over time they will heal 27 health, which is quite a bit for a level 1. But with how critical food is, with a good food that you can find in a lot of minigames, I'm sure, that gives you this level 3 regen from down to 3 health, it can fully heal you back up to 100 and have so much more healing that can be done. So eating before a fight, eating during a fight if you have time, eating before the next fight is almost always worth it to keep that regen going, because as you take damage, that 1 health every second or so, or however much it gets you with the different rarities of food, that could save you the entire fight. And the tier 3 is so much more health that is just constantly going. So eating before fights and eating during fights, if you have the time to not get hit, is super critical in this game. I can already tell. Now, with potions are also very good, but if you get hit at all, they cancel. It's very crucial to understand the difference between when you should potion and when you should eat. The main thing with potions is that if you have a large one, those are mainly good for getting a lot of health quickly. But if you're in the middle of a fight, or if you're about to be in a fight, the greater potion is actually very much more helpful, because you can drink it fast. After a few seconds, he'll give you a little bit more health. It is so much faster to drink that it will save you in countless situations if you have time to drink a potion. The large one is definitely for if you're low and you have to heal up to full. That one's more efficient, but if you don't have time, that greater potion is so good. And hopefully this is all giving you a different perspective on this PvP clip, as I try my best to implement the things that I've learned. And I'm sure I've only scratched the surface of this PvP endeavor in all of Hytale, because it's always important to try and keep improving. But this definitely feels like it helps me win more fights. If you want to see more videos like this, then subscribe, and thank you for watching till the end.